What's up, you guys? This is Century Productions and welcome to the Watchtower series. If you're new here, this is just basically a deep dive into my toy photography. I show you how I light my setups, how I pose my figures, how I arrange everything, all that good stuff. So we're starting out this episode with some Superman content. I picked up a McFarlane Superman figure and I've just been kind of playing with it over the weekend, and even though they're not the greatest figures, it was kind of got me interested into Superman. And I go through phases with characters. I'll shoot Taskmaster for like 3-4 days, and then Bucky, Cap for like 5 days, and then Batman and stuff like that. So I kind of have entered into a small Superman phase here. So I got really into Superman over the weekend, started reading some comics, and then HBO Max has like 13 different Superman movies plus all the live actions movies. So I was watched a couple of those, watched a couple of the cartoons, and I was thinking about Clark Kent. I was like, everyone always shoots Superman, but there isn't really any cool Clark Kents out there that you can kind of just buy straight up. I mean, I'm sure there is, but nothing like, no figures that of any substance, nothing that has like really good articulation or anything. So I started thinking about what Clark Kent heads I really liked, and even though this is from the Mafex Dark Knight Returns Superman, and it's Superman's head, I thought maybe I can kind of kit bash together a little Clark Kent kind of get up and use this head as if like he's about to fly away as Superman. So I was thinking about which bodies I could use and started thinking of some Indiana Jones figures. They have a lot of suited bodies in that line, but none of those figures are kind of bulky. You still have to kind of sell the idea that Clark is a bigger guy. So I was thinking about Marvel Legends, and then I came across the Hammerhead body right here. And the suit is a little extravagant, it's kind of loud, but if you kind of go through those old Superman Golden Age comics, he wears suits like this all the time. Not necessarily with the black undershirt, but he wears blue pinstripe suits a lot with white undershirts and red ties. So I kind of just got some tack and put some tack on the top of the Superman's head, and I was surprised to find out that you could pull the Hammerhead head all the way out with the ball pin, and you could sit this Superman Dark Knight Returns Mafex head right on there, and it works pretty well. Of course, I got the Beast glasses right here. Tried to put those on his face because initially I was going to take this shot in the Daily Planet bullpen, but it just didn't really work. I really couldn't get the glasses to sit on there and look like flush with his head, so I kind of went the other route. I kind of pulled out some accessories, got the briefcase from Marvel Legends, printed out a little Daily Planet newspaper, got this like little Mandalorian cloak that looks kind of like an overcoat, and then I was able to kind of just sneak the glasses on the tip of his finger. And even though this is a vanilla pose, I think it kind of really all kind of comes together and sells everything, kind of like he's on his way to work. We got that really nice background back there that's going to be out of focus. I believe that's New York. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. And I created this like little sidewalk with grass, and maybe he heard something and he's about to kind of basically take off all his clothes and become Superman and fly away. But I really like this. I really spent a lot of time just kind of kit bashing this Clark Kent together, and I really wanted the story to make sense, and then I kind of just built the scene around that. This is actually a pretty not that complicated scene. Alright, so here's the setup. It looks more complicated than it actually is, but it's a lot of lights, but I wanted to make sure I got a lot of lights on the front of Clark here and everything. But starting from the back, our background back there, got a little light strip right there to light the bottom of it. Got these two big E-Mart lights right here lighting the background. Of course, we got this Ulanzi back here to give them a little bit of backlighting. Then we got these two Lume Cube panel minis to kind of light the front of them. I noticed that his pants were coming up a little dark in the shot, so I snuck this little Ulanzi right here just to give a little bit more light on the bottom portion of his pants. Of course, this is just two pieces of artificial grass kind of put together, and then I got these little fake sidewalks. I think these are from a Diamond Select figure from back in the day, and I kind of put the two pieces of grass together and then put these little pieces of sidewalk. So it's kind of seamless all the way through, and then I just, these were kind of popping up a little bit, so I just put something heavy on each end and yeah, that's pretty much the whole shot. I think it's really cool. I think the nicest touch for this shot, at least for me, is the glasses. They just fit like right on the end of his finger, kind of like he just grabbed him real quick. It's like the little touches like that, the little tiny details. I like how the newspapers, put underneath his arm, like he's on his way to work and he's carrying too much stuff. So I really like this shot. I like this little Clark Kent that I was able to kit patch together. Alright, so I decided I'm going to keep shooting Superman here. I love this version of the character from The Dark Knight Returns, and I really love this figure. This is probably my favorite Mafex figure of all time. I just think it's just fantastic. I love the colors, the blue, the red. It's like the perfect blue and red for Superman, the yellow. I love how big his emblem is. I love the head sculpt. I only wish it came with more head sculpts, honestly, but... so I think I'm going to shoot a couple more shots with this guy. I was kind of playing around with him last night, and I just started like coming up with ideas and ideas and ideas. It was crazy. I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm coming up with all these ideas. I think late last year, I took a whole week and I shot this figure like 6 times in a row and took some of my favorite shots I've ever taken with him. There was this one where I took a shot of Superman on the water, and I remember taking that shot just being like, man, I can't believe I took this shot. This is so cool. I was kind of geeking out on my own shots. And then I set this up, and I've been thinking about this shot for a while. These cutouts are pulled from the 2018 run with Man of Steel by Bendis, Brian Michael Bendis. And I don't know, I was reading it, and I came across this little excerpt, and I fell in love with it, dude. And I pulled the cutouts, I made the cutouts, and I wanted to take this shot like sooner rather than later. Basically it says, there's a young woman, I'd say 2 miles away. She's playing her best friend a song she's been working on. It's a cover. It's just about the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. I just think that's such a beautiful Superman quote. We always see him fighting crime and saving the people he loves and saving the innocents. But we don't really get this that much. I feel like nowadays. So, when Bendis wrote this line, I think Bendis is probably my all-time favorite comic book writer, probably next to like Kurt Busiek and Ed Brubaker, but I think Bendis is probably my all-time favorite. And he always just captures moments like this with superheroes. I think this is such a beautiful little quote that Superman said here, just taking a moment. And, he has super hearing. He's hearing somebody 2 miles away just play a song to their best friend. It's beautiful, man. So I kind of set everything up. I had a very loose idea of how I wanted to take this shot. I know I was initially going to use glass, but we all know that using glass is a pain in the ass. And I didn't want to set all that up, so I figured maybe I could attach the cutouts to the Superman right here, and then I was able to actually attach one of them to his cape, which kind of worked out pretty good. Kind of hard always to line all these up and make sure that they're all parallel to each other, and then at the same time hide the stand and make sure this is all lined up correctly and get the pose you want. But I'm not trying to say that this is the greatest shot in the world, but I am super happy and proud of this shot. I think everything just kind of came together for this shot. For me personally, I was able to hide the stand within the seams of the building. You guys probably didn't even see that this was a stand, but there is a stand right there, and I hid it, as you can see, kind of right on the window line right there. I was able to hide all the shadows that this cutout would create with all the lights around it. I was able to get the pose I wanted. I really wanted to, I've shot this figure a lot, and I noticed I was taking a lot of shots of him just standing or sitting, and I was like, this is Superman, dude. Like, he needs to be flying. So I really made it a goal of mine with this shot in particular to have him flying. And in the source material, we can also see that he's kind of just hovering in place and when he says this quote. So I really wanted to capture him flying, and I think this kind of sells the illusion very well. I don't think anyone will notice that stands there, honestly. I mean, maybe if you're an action figure photographer and you're looking for it, you'll see it, but I think it blends in perfectly. I wanted to make sure this was a nighttime scene. I wanted to make sure that you could see the cutouts, and I'm super happy how this turned out, man. Alright, just a slightly different angle just so you can kind of get a better idea of like the whole setup. Like most of my setups, they're pretty, I only really put in the scene, what is going to be in the frame. I don't really go all out and be posting huge pictures for backgrounds and all that stuff. As you can see, this is just an 11 by 17 little picture. I made sure I scooted the Superman very close to it so I could get my framing just right, and then I can just move that out of the way so you guys can see. And then we can see how these cutouts are attached just by blue tack on his shoulder, on the cape right here. Very simple stuff, nothing too crazy. Like I said, the hard part about shots like this is lining everything up and making sure both of these are parallel with each other, because if one's at an angle like this and then the other one's at an angle like that, then your shot's going to really start to frustrate you, because obviously when they're actually making these comics, they can just add all this stuff in digitally. So it's always going to be straight, but when you're trying to do it tangibly like this, like that's when you start running into a lot of problems. But yeah, this is a really cool shot. I already got my shot and everything, so I can kind of take this out. But yeah, you can see nothing really too crazy with this. Like I said, I think this is an awesome quote. I love this quote so much. And you know, it's always kind of hard to attach the tack to the cloth and stuff like that. But you know, if you really press it hard and you really kind of get it in there, you can make it work. So yeah, that is my Superman Bendis 2018 Man of Steel shot. And I don't know, dude, this might be my favorite shot I've ever taken of this figure. It's probably one of my favorite shots I've ever taken. I'm just so juiced and so stoked about this shot. Let's check it out. Alright, so continuing the Superman shots, we got another Superman cutout kind of set up here. Had to workshop this one a little bit. I had a general idea of what I wanted to do with these two cutouts right here. This is a very old school Superman saying from the, you know, from his inception back in the late 30s. It's been said that I'm faster than a speeding bullet, and I am. You know, that whole spiel, it's a bird, it's a plane, faster than a locomotive, faster than a speeding bullet, blah blah blah. You know, Superman's done way crazier shit nowadays than just go faster than a speeding bullet, but I still think it's kind of nostalgic to throw some cutouts like this in there. You know, we saw from the last shop that I used very similar cutouts, but instead of blue, we went with yellow here, so I kind of wanted to change the whole vibe of the whole kind of setup. Instead of from like a night scene with lots of blues, now we got, I guess, a day scene, but with lots of yellows. You know, we got this really cool anime speed background. That's what these backgrounds are called. It took me forever a couple years ago to try to figure out how to find images like that, because I always saw these speed backgrounds, that's what they're called, because they're like very common in anime, you know, where it shows them doing a kick or a punch or something like that. But I didn't know what they were called, so I couldn't find what the actual image or the set of pictures was called, so I eventually found out they're called speed backgrounds. This one's kind of at an angle. This is just an 11 by 17 background. You guys, if you guys watch my videos, you know I use a lot of these 11 by 17 backgrounds. They work really cool, or they work really good for shots. You just kind of have to contain the shot a little bit more. So I knew I wanted to have those two cutouts on there, but I was like, okay, if I'm going to have the Superman flying, I have to hide the stand somehow. So I was trying to figure out how I could work the cutouts onto the Superman, how I could work the stand onto Superman, because, you know, this is a Mafex figure. I don't want to damage it. You know, sticking flight stands up, you know, figures' crotches and legs and armpits and the back of their torso articulation, you know, if you're not careful, you can kind of ruin the figure. So I had to be really careful, kind of plan it out. And then, of course, on top of that, I had to add this bullet. You know, we have a little bullet stream. These are courtesy of Cristiano Pelagrosi on Instagram, or you can hit up Black Symbiote Diego on Symbiote on Instagram as well. I'm not sure if they're still selling these, but these are the best bullet streams in the game. You can't get any better quality than these ones. So I had to work that in there, but I also had to hide the stand. So I found this old cutout that I had made years ago. If you really take a close look at this cutout, it is not as well crafted as some of my newer cutouts. It's very, you know, I got like marks and there's parts I didn't get with the Sharpie, but I think you'd really have to look for that stuff. But this kind of came in clutch. I've always thought this was a cool cutout. Obviously, it's got the word kablam, or the sound effect kablam, and it also has a gun with the shell coming out. I always thought that was so sick, but I never knew how to work it into anything. And lo and behold, I had this shot, and I was like, you know what? This might be just perfect to hide the stand. Now I will have to cut out some of the cutoff. I'll have to cut off some of the cutout in the framing, but for the most part, I mean, this is like art inception right here. We got art in the background, we got art on the figure itself is art, and then we got more art for the sound effect. This is really cool. There's a lot of cutouts, and then on top of that, you can see the bullet right here. You can actually see it better in the shot. I have it more up and pointed out. So yeah, this is a pretty cool shot. It kind of came together. Hopefully people think it's cool. Here's another angle. Not really much more to add on to this shot. Maybe you can just kind of see how, more of how the cutouts are kind of put on the figure and everything. If I can kind of turn this, you can see I just have a piece of tack on a flight stand. It's very simple, just kind of use what you have, and that tack really comes in handy. If you guys don't have blue tack and you're a figure photographer, you have to have it. I mean, it's probably, other than flight stands and lighting, it's probably the most essential thing that I personally need for my photography, or that I constantly use. I mean, I almost use tack exclusively for almost every shot, especially when it comes to cutouts, if I want to put cutouts on figure. Once again, if I turn this Superman around, I don't know how well you guys will be able to see it, but you can see the tack right there holding up the cutouts for Superman. Once again, like I said, gotta have that tack. This shot, much like the last shot, kind of had to just line up those cutouts, make sure they came parallel on the framing. Don't really want them at an angle or anything. I really want to make sure that these cutouts are very parallel, or they're level in the frame. I really like the Superman pose, and I got to use the alternate head right here. I had to angle his head turning to the left, because if I turn it to the right, you can see that this is the battle damaged head, so it's got a lot of marks and stuff on the side of the head there. But I've been using that neutral head so much lately. I don't think I've ever actually even shot this head. That's the one thing about this figure, man. I wish it came with 5 or 6 heads. It would have been so much cooler and more options to kind of just play around with. But just work with what you got. Love the Superman, up to saturation. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say on this one. This is a lot of cutouts kind of came together. I was having a lot of fun. I didn't even plan on shooting anything tonight, but inspiration hit me. So let's check this out. So for this Superman shot, I wanted to recreate a cover. One of my favorite things about toy photography is it's not just actually taking the shots itself, it's everything leading up to the shot. I like doing my research, skimming comics, reading comics, looking at artwork, trying to gather ideas, looking at covers. That's a big thing for me, is I love just the appeal of a really nice, iconic cover. So when I was looking at this Superman, which, this is probably one of my favorite figures, probably top 5 figures of all time for me, across the board, Marvel, DC, all of it, Star Wars, all that stuff. And I was thinking of iconic Superman covers, and of course my mind went to Jim Lee. Jim Lee, probably top 3 favorite artists for me of all time. He's probably top 3 favorite artists for a lot of people. I've met Jim Lee several times, and I came across this Superman Volume 2, number 204. This is from the For Tomorrow storyline, from Brian Azzarello. And then, of course, this is the dream team. We got Alex Sinclair, which is the colorist. We got Scott Williams, who's the inker. And then, of course, we got Jim Lee doing the pencils. And like I said, that's just a dream team. When those guys culminate together, they really come up with some badass, iconic stuff. So I went with that for this Superman shot, try to replicate it the best I could. I have a really big print back here of Metropolis with the Daily Planet. You can't really see the Daily Planet back there. I can show you. Of course, the light's kind of in the way. But yeah, it's got the Daily Planet back there. It's a really nice print. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I got it so big. I think it's 18 by 24 or something like that. But I think it works really well for this shot. This shot has a lot of yellows, kind of, Superman basking in the sunlight. But I think the most difficult part about this shot was not the posing, not getting the cape like that, not setting everything up. It was trying to figure out this cutout. So if you can see the side by side, you can see it has this cutout of I forget what these things are called on the corner of buildings. But you know, this is that iconic one from the Spider-Man movie where he's standing on it, and, or there's some that look very identical to this. Basically, he's just standing on the corner of a rooftop, kind of looking at the city of Metropolis. And I knew that if I wanted to replicate this cover, I had to use this cutout somehow. But in the original image, you know, his leg is sticking down in the cutout. So you can kind of see that through the original image, he's kind of stepping in between this this statue right here. So in order to do that, I kind of had to layer the cutout. Because like I said, I wanted to replicate it the best I could. So there's actually 3 layers for this cutout. There's a layer back here, there's a layer right here, and then there's another layer right here. So from this angle, you can kind of get a better idea of how I layered the cutouts. This is like kind of a first for me. I've never really done anything like this as far as taking one image and printing it out multiple times just so that I can layer it into the shot more effectively. I've seen other people do it, so this is by no means like something new that no one's ever tried before. But what I did have to do is I had to take that image, and there was a couple, I think there was a watermark on it, and then of course his foot is sticking in the middle of this image, so I had to kind of basically Photoshop the rest of the image in there, very shittily I might add. So if you really look at the image, you can really tell, wow, this guy does not know how to fucking Photoshop at all. But, you know, I wasn't really too worried about that because obviously the focal point right here is going to be Superman and everyone. Oh, he's going to be Superman right there and everything. So I wasn't really too worried about how I was going to approach the watermark and redoing the whole image and all that. I was more concerned with trying to figure out how to layer the cutout into the shot. Because it's quite difficult, to be honest with you, trying to figure out how to do that. But I think I was able to successfully kind of jimmy rig it and make it look as if that's how the cover looks. And I'm pretty impressed with myself. So yeah, this is my little Superman cover shot. Iconic Jim Lee Superman. Probably, in my opinion, the most iconic Jim Lee Superman cover. And I really like how this one turned out. Very yellow, very lots of sunlight. Just a very bright, vibrant picture, very fun. Alright, so continuing the Superman shots, I decided to end my little Mafex Dark Knight Returns Superman run with a kind of a cooler shot. I've taken a shot of the Superman holding up the Daily Bugle before. It was a different cutout from like an animated series, and I just never really liked how that one came out. But I got some artwork from Superman Year One with John Romita Jr., who I know he's not everybody's favorite artist, but he's definitely one of my favorite artists. And yeah, this is one of the covers. Kind of used 2 different kind of cutouts here. This is the cutout to show the Daily Planet, you know, that sits on top of the building. I really like this this art right here because it really kind of shows the scale of how big that planet is that's on top of that building. So just kind of went with the same lighting approach that you see in the actual artwork. Went with like a more of a yellow kind of hitting this white background, and then of course more yellow kind of hitting the sides of the figure and the front of the figure. I tried to get the least amount of light down here because I kind of wanted this part to come out black. That's just another cutout that's in front of this cutout. Very cutout heavy, this shot. But man, I really love this figure. I think it's such a cool figure. I can get it in all these crazy poses. You know, I mainly take Marvel shots, so when I get to shoot Superman, it's really cool because I have a lot of ideas. Because I never shoot any DC characters, so this is kind of cool. Alright, so you can kind of see more of like how big these cutouts are. You know, of course the Superman stands about 6 inches tall by Mafex. And yeah, these cutouts are pretty big. I think I printed this on a legal size of piece of paper. You know, a lot of people ask where I get these cutouts and everything, and the easy answer to tell them is just on HP laser jets. FedEx office near me, they have like a whole bunch of them. I can just go in there, print out my own cutouts, size them up in the FedEx if I want to, take them home, cut them up, and then we get cool stuff like this. Just glue stick to poster board, give it a little bit more firmness. And that way it keeps its shape, it's not all thin and brittle like a regular piece of paper. Same thing with this cutout down here. This Superman's very animated looking, so you know, it's always kind of cool when I can throw an animated cutout in here. I think this is from My Hero Academia. There was one day where I was looking at screen caps of My Hero Academia and I came across this and I went, you know what, this looks like rubbish, or, you know, garbage, or like, you know, an area of a city that just got like demolished or attacked or something. So I've always held on to it. First time I think I've been able to use this. I think it works really good. And yeah, so there's not really much else to add on this shot. It's kind of just a redemption from my other Daily Planet shot, which I still think is good. It's just this one's a little bit more ingrained in that comic style than that other one. That's my kind of style has kind of changed over the years, obviously, so that's pretty cool. But I want to thank you guys for watching this. Hopefully you found some Superman shots that you thought were really cool, or you're like, oh yeah, that's, you know, a very cool quote to use, or I don't know, if you find anything in my videos cool, I think it's cool. So let me know down below if you got any feedback for me. If you're like, hey, I think you could have done this, you could have done that, you could have switched this around, maybe you should try this, all that stuff, leave it down below. In the meantime, this is Century Productions. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time. Let's check out this shot.